I'd like to welcome everybody to the CRTPA meeting. Let the record show that we call this meeting to order on
Nick, we got no mic.
mics. There we go. Check. Okay.
He's checking on it.
All right.
Let's go to informal recess for a minute.
Okay. Recess for a second. While I think there we go. I think I hear mics. All right, we're good.
Yes, it is.
Let the record show that we call this meeting to order at exactly 1:30 on May 15th. We'll start with agenda for modifications. Are there any modifications?
No, sir.
We have no modifications. We'll move now to citizen comment. I have one, two,
I believe they were going to speak on agenda 6A.
four. I have three speakers. Well, three speakers. I think all of them for 6A. You want to wait until the item? Okay, we'll wait till the item. But we have no citizens to be heard on non-agenda items. Seeing none, we'll move to the consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve consent?
Second.
Consent's been moved by Commissioner Merritt, seconded by Commissioner Dozier. All those in favor of the motion on the floor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries without objection. We'll move now to
6A.
item number 5, consent items pulled. No consent items were pulled. We'll move to 6A, CRTPA action items. Appalachia Parkway, Magnolia Drive intersection updates. Won't we start with introduction of the item, then we'll go to speakers?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. This is an item that you all had requested a presentation on from the department. I believe it's your February meeting, and we have staff here from FDOT give you an update on the project and kind of walk through some of the details of the project itself. So with that, I'll introduce Suzanne Lex from DOT, and I believe she'll introduce the next speaker.
Yes, thank you very much for the opportunity to present this item to you today. We have to present this, our team. The project team is Sherman Claus from the Balmoral Group. He serves as the design project manager, along with Howard Hodge from Panhandle Engineering and Construction. He is the consultant project manager. These two engineers work with Byron Sprague Jr., and he is the engineer of record. We also have from FDOT Design Office, Kevin Fussell. Should you have any questions, he is here. So with that, we'll get the presentation started.
Thanks very much for having us, and again, as Suzanne said, to present this project. First, let me just give an overview of the project itself. This is a safety improvement project at the intersection of State Road 20, Appalachia Parkway, at State Road 265, Magnolia Drive. The project starts approximately 600 feet west of Magnolia Drive and ends approximately 400 feet east of Magnolia Drive. And the posted speed along Appalachia is 45 through these limits. The project need is based on a safety study that was completed in 2015. They found that there were a high number of crashes occurring at the intersection. And then from a pedestrian standpoint, there's not a marked crossing along that east leg on there. And the study found that over a 9-hour study period, that 15 crossings had occurred on that unmarked east leg. And it's a little hard to see in the picture, but when one of our site visits, we actually found people crossing and stopped in the little refuge island or medium island there. The west leg itself is the current crossing time is intended. It's a 2-stage crossing with a refuge island between Appalachia Parkway and the eastbound service road. It's the crossing time is intended to make that entire crossing in one movement. However, that's unrealistic to do, and a lot of people end up stopping in that refuge island and have to wait for a considerable time while traffic moves around them. The service roads, for non-locals, it's a little non-intuitive to get off on a service road a half mile up ahead in order to make a right turn, and that's occurring on the eastbound and westbound movements on there. And it's not unusual to see illegal right turns from the through movements on Appalachia, and we find those conflicting with the legal right turns coming off the service road. So the intended improvements are to relocate the right turns from the service roads, the eastbound, westbound service roads, Onto Appalachia Parkway. This meets driver expectancy and also eliminates those illegal right turns that are occurring. We're going to extend in the eastbound. There's a dual left turn lane onto northbound State Road 65, and we'll extend that a little bit to improve storage. We're going to add the pedestrian crossing on the east leg of the intersection. It'll be a single crossing. We're going to convert the crossing on the west leg from a dual crossing to a single stage crossing. This eliminates that second crossing across the service lane on there.
Could I ask
Go ahead.
you to please go more slowly?
Sure.
And if it's possible to point these things out on the map, I think that would be a lot more helpful.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I'll have some exhibits. I'll go through these in depth. Okay. Do you want me to rehash what I went over?
Because I'm looking at the map,
Okay.
and it's a little bit easier to have an opinion if you're actually looking at the map instead of the list.
Okay.
And for me, at least, so if you could basically show us
Sure.
these things. Thank you.
Not a problem.
Nice.
Okay, so as you can see, this is the visual the depiction of the improvements. So the idea is to transfer the right turn lanes off the eastbound service road and the westbound service road, put those onto Appalachia Parkway, and make those more like a traditional intersection is, even down the corridor. Here in the left turn lane, the eastbound movement, we're going to extend this to improve the storage. We got cars that are queuing out onto the through lanes, so that's a safety improvement there. We're going to add the crossing over here on the east leg of the intersection, where it currently does not exist. With the improvements here on the eastbound, we're closing off the service road, and so this will convert from a dual stage to a single stage crossing.
So the service road just going to dead end, and you'll have to turn into the parking lot there, basically, right?
Correct, right.
Besides.
We're also going to perform some signal improvements to enhance the pedestrian features. The first thing, we're switching out the 3-section heads that are currently, your red, yellow, green arrows to 4-section heads that consists of a solid green arrow, a flashing yellow that will be utilized when pedestrians are crossing. So that requires motorists to give a permissive movement for motorists as well as the pedestrians crossing. And then we're implementing a leading pedestrian interval, and what this does is allows the pedestrians a few seconds head start, so they cross before the traffic gets the green signal. So they're in the crosswalk before the traffic gets to go. We're also going to implement LED signs overhead on the mast arms on the east approach and the west approach. That will that says turning traffic must yield to pedestrians. We're going to implement the special emphasis crosswalks, which are high visibility for motorists, and then we're adding overhead lighting to enhance the visibility of pedestrians throughout the intersection. One of the benefits of closing off these service roads too is that here in the southwest, southeast, and northeast corners, there'll be some additional green space created from that as well. To focus on the west leg, just to get a little closer view of what we're talking about, here's the eastbound left turn lane extension. We're extending that approximately 250 feet. Is that right? Yeah, 250 feet. And then the eastbound right turn lane, there's, as you may be aware, there's the Governor's Oaks along this median as well. And then there's it's not one of the Governor's Oaks, but it's a 30-inch oak tree right here. And we stopped our right turn improvement, so we did not impact that tree. One of the inquiries we had gotten as part of the public involvement process was putting another entrance coming off of the Parkway Shopping Center here. But as you can see, this is the service road up here, and this is Appalachia, and this is about the location where the entrance road was requested. And this this has a large elevation difference, upwards of 6 to 7 feet as you get a little farther west, and to the east it's about 3 feet high. It makes it very challenging to get a proper usable entrance at that location there. So we weren't proposing to do that. Looking at the east side improvements, starting at the southeast corner here, this is where the vitamin shop entrance is. This is an existing service road that as you turn left, you can just kind of shoot straight down. There's also a right turn to that same service road. In order to put the crossing in for the pedestrians, we needed to add some additional concrete sidewalk in order to fit the curb ramp in that was impeding through the service road. So the proposal is to go ahead and close off that portion of the service road and reconfigure the entrance into the vitamin shop through here while maintaining the existing exit off the service road from the Appalachia onto the service road. In the northeast corner, it's kind of a mirror image of what we're doing eastbound. Again, closing off the service road. This is the CVS right here and a DSW Shoes. It still maintains their ingress and provides the right turn lane with the bicycle keyhole through here. So the bicycle facilities will be maintained with the project. One of the considerations as we went through our design was to ensure that access was maintained to the business, both to and from. This is an overall view of the various businesses. You've got, like I said, the CVS, the shoe store. You have an in through here, and then you have various points of ingress and egress, both up here. The vitamin shop has several, as does the Parkway Shopping Center. They can get on through here to eastbound Appalachia through here and Lafayette through the southwest corner.
So those service roads are going to remain the one way that they are, correct?
Correct. Yeah. They get truncated.
In a dead end, yeah.
And then just a project status. We actually, there's a resurfacing project to be completed along Magnolia Drive north of the intersection, or starting from the intersection running to the north. That's going to be constructed with the improvement projects as well, so it's two forms of construction going on at the same time. The schedule is, the project is scheduled to be let to construction this September 13th. Construction slated to begin January of 2019 and estimated to end in September of 2019. The current budget for the Appalachia intersection improvement projects is approximately $685,000, and for the resurfacing is $2.5 million. And that concludes the presentation.
Be a private citizen by the time they started.
All right, we do have some citizens to be heard on the item. Mike Fiara, name and address for record, please, sir.
I'd love to be able to work this thing. Listen, my name is Mike Farrar. I live at 1401 Tuccinini, and I'm here in Tallahassee, Florida. And Commissioner Maddox, this may run over a minute, and I would like to request an extra minute on the 3 minutes.
Go for it.
Okay, thanks, buddy. Listen, the first thing I want to address is the history of the whole intersection. And ever since that Parkway Shopping Center was built 30 years ago, it worked fine with a turn lane off the Parkway, with that service road, controlled by a stop sign, okay? 10 or 15 years ago, the FDOT took out the service road and made the entrance, the egress into the shopping center down by Applebee's, okay? Well, on the issue of safety, I'm going to put a lot of it on FDOT. I mean, I'll tell you what, that the sign is inadequate for the exit, and when they built that inadequate sign, those trees were just shrubs. Now it's a forest, and you guys drive down there today in the rain, and let me see if you can find how easy it would be to miss that. And I'd also like to have the FDOT break down the safety issues on how many of those accidents were happening with traffic on South Magnolia fighting to get into that right lane to get on to continue on to Magnolia there at Lafayette Street, and how many actually were from people making illegal turns. I think that should be cleared up. And I'd also like to ask them why there's an existing sidewalk on the east side of that road, and why can't they block off that service road that affects only 2 businesses, CVS and that shoe store, and whose customers very rarely get on that service road to go back up on North Monroe. Most of them use that road behind the center. The side of the road that they're putting it on is going to affect 18 businesses, 500,000 square feet, and there's probably hundreds of local people that work in that shopping center. And they're going to take 27 ingress exit points out of that shopping center out by blocking that service road out. So my deal is who in town here advocates for local businesses, you know, before FDOT brings what they're going to do to a meeting, that we could be included in the process before they come to us with their plans. So in a nutshell, if you take 18 businesses and you leave, and I wish I could pull up those exits on the Magnolia because it's ridiculous. And if you take out that whole front deal, it's basically, if I can inconvenience you enough, I'm going to become an inconvenience. And it's as simple as that. That light on that service road is the only protected way to get out of that shopping center on South Magnolia. And anybody that uses the shopping center knows that trying to get into the left lane to go down to South Magnolia, or to make the illegal U-turn that you have to make at the light because FDOT put a median there so you can't turn left coming out of the shopping center, it's dangerous. So if you put a service road, the exit off the Parkway onto that 2 going into 1, you're going to make it 3 going into 1. And I can't think that would work out very well. I can't ever remember hearing of a pedestrian getting hurt at that intersection. I know there was a bicycle accident there one year. The kid ran the light, okay? He crossed the street against the light. So in closing, I'd like the FDOT to break down the safeties and which ones were related to people making illegal turns, because they have failed. And 2 years ago, I wrote those people in Chipley asking them for a bigger sign and maybe doing some trimming on those shrubs, and I got a one-word response, and it was denied. So I just want you guys to take into consideration what an impact this is going to have on the shopping center and everybody who works there and everybody that you guys that are supposed to be protecting here in this town. So listen, if I take a gallon of water and I put it in a funnel with a 1/4-inch spout, there it is. So I'll start repeating myself right now, and there's probably some other stuff I want to talk about, but I'm not a very good public speaker. But the deal of it is that this is a bad idea, and it's not taken into consideration that the citizens and the local people in this town, and it's the FDOT making decisions without giving us a chance to participate in the process before they come to us with the plans on what they're going to do. And there's a sidewalk already on the east side of that road. You know, nobody has to tear up anything. And why not just do that and look at the numbers? Do you want to inconvenience people for 2 businesses, or do you want to inconvenience people for 18 businesses? So that's all I got to say. And I really wish you guys would think about this, because it's been really frustrating. And I would really like to have the city form a council or something for advocacy, you know, so when we do run into people like this, we can go talk to you guys, and you guys can, if you think our arguments are valid, maybe represent us against the state when they want to come in and do stuff within Leon County. And listen, thanks a lot. And this is something that's I know I sound a little excited about this, but I've had my business there for 30 years. I need it to feed my family. The 50 employees that work for me, they need that jobs to feed their family. Some of these people have been working for me for 17, 18 years, and I really think that this deal here has a potential to put me and a lot of other people out of business in that shopping center. And thanks a lot for listening to me rant.
And he has the best crab cakes in town.
Thank you, sir. Next speaker is Benjamin Goldberg. Name and address for the record, please, sir.
Pardon?
Name and address for the record, please.
Benjamin Goldberg, 2201 Joyner Drive, 32303.
You have 3 minutes.
I'm on behalf of New Leaf Market, and I second a lot of what Mike had said. I just wanted to address some logistics aspects of it because it hasn't been thought through. It's a little short-sighted. Without looking at the map, I guess you can look at the smaller one on the right. What you're looking at is closing off an access road that people count on further down the plaza. So you hit the access road and you go to it and you get to the dead end. What do? You make a right into the plaza. So I'm not sure how many pedestrians actually cross Appalachian Parkway, but I know there's quite a few pedestrians within that shopping center. So you're directing all the traffic flow through the plaza to exit out poorly to Magnolia, poorly to Lafayette in any direction, except for further down the plaza, which logistically, I'm going to drive a quarter mile till I can exit to a road so I can make a left turn. It's just short-sighted when it comes to the access for our customers. And so speaking of safety, since that's a primary concern, I reiterate that how many bodies are actually physically walking across Appalachian Parkway versus how many bodies are walking through the parking lot in the shopping center. So New Leaf Market's been there as well for many years, as long as Cabo's. And we spent more than 9 hours assessing the traffic flow that flows through the plaza, as well as all the interruptions that happen out on the actual streets based on FDOT's layout. So, pardon me, I'm a little nervous. So if you're coming down Magnolia and you want to make a turn into the plaza, try doing that at lunchtime. You're backed up 6 cars through the intersection, so you have to wait through those other lights. How is that going to look when the access road itself is shut off, so that then those cars are coming through the plaza, trying to navigate getting out onto Magnolia Drive, as Mike said, crossing 3 lanes in a matter of, 20 feet? That's not going to work. Just look at how it goes. As well as then to exit the plaza, you have to go through Crispers in between us, New Leaf Market and Crispers. You can't turn left, so you're forced right. So then what you direct all the way down to hopefully pop back into the plaza to cross over out onto Appalachian Parkway to then head east on Appalachian Parkway. It just doesn't make sense. So it may, again, be trying to correct one particular issue when it comes to safety as far as pedestrians walking that way, but you're redirecting traffic through the plaza, where you're inviting people to come and shop. So again, the traffic flow versus the actual pedestrians that it's going to be affecting should be something to definitely take into consideration, as well as with Mike and the businesses. So we all know the construction that happens is going to limit the business access regardless. So that's already going to be one financial impact. So during the full year of construction, there's financial impacts, and then after the fact, we're stuck with a plaza that is difficult to get out of, as well as nearly more difficult getting into, because you're then learning, oh, this access road gets me there, but you're learning that the access road is closed. So then you're going to be going up to the end to Magnolia and Appalachian Parkway, making a right, trying to get into that plaza, which you're going to be jammed up. So it's not fixing anything when it comes to the plaza access or the safety. It's actually reducing the safety and making it much more difficult. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next speaker is Mr. Ed Murray. Name and address for the record, please, sir.
Hi, guys. I'm Ed Murray. I'm president of NAI Talcor, president and partner of NAI Talcor. Fortunately, I know most of you guys. We manage the shopping center that is in the Parkway Shopping Center where Cabo's and New Leaf are. We've been managing that for the owner out of New York since 2001. So we're also very familiar with the traffic flow. First of all, I'd like to convince you to not do it, to not alter the access road, because the way it flows right now, it does work. But I'm not going to spend my 3 minutes on that. I'm going to spend my 3 minutes on if the direction that you're going to close it, you're going that way. If that's the way you're going, then I'd like to talk to you about another idea. The owner is prepared to offer. The owner will rework the shopping center so that they create dual circulation, both way circulation around the internal internal aspects of the shopping center. What happened when the access road went in, it cut that off. So you can't go back now. You can't go back along the top of the shopping center back to get back out on the parkway. He will create that. He'll renovate the center, and he'll put landscaping aisles in if DOT and the city will remove the tall trees and the landscaping, not the 30-inch governor's oak. But if you saw the other pictures, there's a lot of other shrubs and smaller trees that are under there. I think it's a lot cheaper for DOT and the city to maintain it, but it's out of control. You can't see, if you're on the parkway, you can't see the center. So you get off, it's a hazard. That's as much of a hazard as the turn lanes are because you can't see where the traffic's moving. So he's proposing on the top, he will rework the circulation of the center, which is a health and safety issue, on his dime, which won't be cheap. He'll renovate the center on his dime, which won't be cheap. He'll also put landscaping aisles in and replace the landscaping and put landscaping and shrubs and all in the middle of the parking lot, which won't be inexpensive as well. But he's asking DOT. Now, DOT can say, that's not our call, that's the city of Tallahassee's call. So I got the city here and DOT here. If you could create lower landscaping, we're not saying concrete. We're saying you can create landscaping that's 1 foot high, 2 feet high, that the cars can see over it. That's what we're asking for the front of the center. The back of the center, what we'd like to see. The other problem is when the cars go into the center, these guys are right. They're boxed in and they can't get out. The difficulty is if you see the right-in, right-outs on Lafayette Street. This is the owner, if you county commissioners remember, that worked with you guys on the sidewalks, on painting, on doing everything. So he tries to be fair and he tries to work on creative ways. If you could make those two exits right out only, that's what these guys would like. Because what happens is traffic stacks up trying to turn left to get back to Magnolia, and it stacks up and jams it. DOT will say that's a county decision. The county guys are here. If you guys can figure out a way to make right out only on those two, then you solve a whole lot of problems at once. You get a center renovated in the next year or two. You get it landscaped. You also get, it's much safer and it's easier to do. That basically, it doesn't make it perfect, but it makes it a heck of a lot better than it is now. And one other thing I left off here is I haven't seen a sign package. I've been told that DOT is going to put together a wayfinding sign package to not direct people into the service road if they're continuing to go east. We'd like to see what that is. The problem that we have right now is it's the middle of May. They're letting the construction in September. So between May and September, that's going to come along in about 2 weeks, right? We're going to turn around. Summer's going to blow by. I'm also asking that you delay it for enough time for us to sit down and talk about it and work these details out. Another month or two or something. We can solve a whole lot of problems if everybody will do that. Mm-hmm. Now, I'm still with him on not doing it, but I think we can solve a whole lot of problems the other way. So that's what I got.
Thank you, sir.
Any questions or any comments?
Any questions from any board member?
Could we just quickly bullet? You said
I can't.
improve
I
the
don't
circulation around. I know.
Yeah, it would. Right now, what happened was when if you guys have been in there,
Yeah,
okay, you leave New Leaf, and you want to go back to the north, which is that way.
Right.
You have to get out on the service road to turn around. The service road, when it was created, that shopping center was built in 1960. I think 59 or 60. That and Capitol Plaza are the two oldest shopping centers in Tallahassee. It used to flow properly, but when the service road was created, it took the flow pattern away from it. So you can't circulate there now. You have to get out on the service road and go against the one way, or you have to go in the middle of the shopping center, neither one of which are real safe, but that's what happens. So it needs to be reworked, but as a motivation, if we could seriously work on the landscaping, not take the 30-inch out. I got that. But there's a lot of other stuff that could be not a halfway effort, a real effort.
Recirculate make circulation around the edge.
Put some landscaping aisles to replace some of the trees.
I got that. And then on Lafayette Street, though, you're talking about making both of the exits out.
Right out only.
The easternmost exits on Lafayette right only.
Correct. Right in, right out.
Yeah, I mean, it says that now, but you can still turn left.
Yeah, but you sit there and wait a
that.
long time to
and-
direct your traffic down to where the light is.
Right, and then send them back to Appalachian Parkway
Correct.
that way.
Or they could go back along the top. They could run along the top till they get in front of Olive Garden and then go back out to the
go out
parkway.
that way.
Right now, they can't do that.
Well, I agree with you. I mean, what you've said is what all three speakers have said have just really defined the problem. I mean, it is very difficult to get out of the shopping center. So while all this, so to direct more people into the shopping center doesn't really make
Right.
a lot of sense.
Let's fix it all at
Yeah,
once.
was my wish that by the end of the day. Okay, thank you.
Everybody good?
Good. Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks, sir. I had a couple of questions before we get to comment from board members. The first question is, what are our options here? Do we have the authority, and this goes back to my MPOAC training, do we have the options to simply say, no, we don't want this? Or do we have the option, I know we can ask you to delay it until we work out the details, but do we really have the option to say, no, DOT, we do not want you to do this?
No, sir. This is funded with state dollars, so
Right.
if it was federal dollars, we may have that leverage. So this is state dollars, then we do not have that option.
Got it.
But we do recognize that there are concerns.
Okay.
Okay.
Right. Okay. Is it the position of FDOT to try to get this done as soon as possible, or if there's a will of the board here to delay until some of these details that we talked about here today are worked out, that FDOT would be willing to have that?
We would be willing to sit down and work with the county and the property management company. We have already met with the property management company.
Right.
And our engineer, design engineer was there and discussed, in particular, the internal circulation would really enhance flow within this. And I can't commit to us changing our project schedule.
Yes, ma'am.
But I know that we would definitely work with you, continue the communication. And I have a note to also get to you what is called our MOT, our Maintenance of Traffic Plan,
Yes, ma'am.
which would include our signage.
The last question I have is, we're heavily into public involvement into the things we do here in Leon County and City of Tallahassee. What was the public involvement process that you went through to get the comments from the business owners as well as the community at large in that area?
I'm going to actually ask Ian Satter. He's our public information officer, and he's here. We do conduct a public hearing, and I'll let him explain sort of the details of that process, please.
Thank you. I appreciate the members for indulging me in these questions real quick.
Good afternoon. My name is Ian Satter. I'm the Public Information Director for Florida DOT District 3. Anytime we have a project of this magnitude, when we are dealing with any sort of access changes or modifications, we hold by state law a public hearing. It is a public meeting open to the public as far as this project goes. We had a meeting, I believe it was about a year or two ago. And during that process, we have a informal portion where we bring out boards, information. We have people there to be able to answer those questions from the public for about a half hour. And then the second half hour is the actual public hearing, the official part where we have an official presentation. It becomes part of the public record. We take public comment like you would here. And all that is entered in and considered with our process as we move forward with the project. So that is our public involvement process for this particular project.
Any questions about public involvement?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
could you tell us what the participation was in that public hearing?
I couldn't tell you offhand, but I could go back and find out how many people attended that meeting. Again, everybody along that corridor within 300 feet of the right-of-way line is invited to that public meeting. We do advertise it in the newspaper. We communicate with our media partners as well about those events, and we publicize those on our website and all of our social media. So it was well publicized during the portion. It's whether or not people attend, I don't have that exact number, but I can get that.
Yeah. Do you recall if this feedback was given at that public hearing?
I believe during that public hearing, I'd have to go back and look at the record. I have about 30 to 40 public meetings a year, so it'd be hard for me to pull off the top of my head, but I can go back and take a look.
Okay.
Anything else?
Yeah.
You want from him?
Yeah, he might have.
Yeah, he's got the answer.
Okay.
I can answer. I was at the public hearing itself, so I agree. I'd have to look at the exact numbers that attended.
Yeah, I don't need the numbers, just
But
the feedback that you get.
the way the feedback happens is that the attendees are allowed to speak, give public comments. We had a court reporter there that took that down as well, and they submitted either written comments. We received some after the fact via email. Howard had received some from Commissioner Ziffer, I believe, as well. So we compiled all those comments and provided responses to those. And I want to say those went out here not too long ago.
And there is a 2-week window from the time we have the public meeting to receive public comments. So if you couldn't make the meeting, the information was made available online, and you could send in those comments via email or through the mail. But there is a 2-week window after that we still receive public comment.
Where was the meeting?
He was here in town, I believe, at the Burns building here in Tallahassee,
Burns
the
building.
FDOT Burns building.
Okay. Suzanne, you got something on point?
Well, again, I'll get you the specifics, some more specifics on the public hearing. I was there, and we did really encourage the attendees. I can't give you quantifying numbers. It was fairly well attended. There were a number of representatives from that area, and there were some people who had concerns and were not comfortable with the court reporter. So again, we handed them our cards and asked them to please send in their comments for the public record, and we encouraged at every opportunity for them to provide input.
Yeah, that meeting was held in October of 2017, and I understand we had about 15 to 20 people attend the meeting.
Okay.
All right. I got a bunch of people in queue to speak, but actually, Commissioner Richardson, you are first. Okay. So I'll go ahead and get into that queue. Commissioner Richardson.
I guess just the last question I had was the input that was given, was it taken into consideration, Suzanne, in the design?
When we present this, we have already come up with that we're basically saying we are changing the access, and this is our proposed project. The input, again, was considered in such ways that we met with the property management company afterwards. We have looked at some of that ingress and egress and working with the county. They expressed some concerns on Lafayette Street, one of the tenants. So it was considered afterwards in a way that we can improve what we see as a necessary safety improvement afterwards in coordination efforts. And we will continue that as we move forward with the TALCOR management and the county.
I have Commissioner Barfield, Commissioner Miller, Commissioner Dozier in queue to speak. Commissioner Barfield?
I'm going to pass to Commissioner Miller.
Commissioner Miller?
Thank you. Since I stole her card.
Oh, that was. I was wondering why I was in front of you. I was like, what's going on? Okay. All right, Commissioner Miller.
We're sharing.
Yes,
Well, I was thinking, I really, other than the new turn lane on the southwest corner, I think I didn't hear anybody objecting to the rest. I'm looking at Commissioner Dozier because this is your territory. Is there any objection really to the other 3 corners that you've heard?
I've not heard
so much. And so as far as their timeline is concerned, that's okay, it seems, with most people. I mean, I use this area too, and I just can't get excited about cutting off, about pointing people into the shopping center as a throughway, essentially. And so I think that the suggestions that Mr. Murray came up with would solve a lot of problems, a lot more problems than just doing that arrow up there and ending that service road there. I don't know whether, my question would be, if you do feel the need, if UDOT needs to add a turn lane on Appalachia Parkway proper, is that why you're closing off the service road, because the two would be turning close together, or you don't have enough space? Because I do, reflecting the questions of the speaker, wonder how many problems that particular situation right at that corner is causing. I mean, are you really having that many issues from people trying to turn onto Magnolia headed south from Appalachia Parkway headed east? Is that really the source of your traffic wrecks or whatever problems that you're having?
Yeah, I can tell you when we were doing site reviews on this project, that probably within a half an hour we saw 4 people make illegal rights from the through lane and almost hit people. So, you know, from the service road, that's the right turn, the free flow right. And so you're finding people who, there's already a sign up to say no right turns. People are still doing it. I think it is partially to circumvent the service road from that standpoint. So that's where we saw an opportunity to eliminate that conflict and potential for accidents.
Well, there's another way to do it, and that is with enforcement, and people start getting tickets up there, and that will certainly put it into it a lot quicker than building a new turn lane. But anyway, a lot of people do it because I think they don't know any better. I mean, they get in, that's where they think they're supposed to be to make that right turn. But that's the problem corner as far as the conflict between the shopping center and the road project. And I think that the suggestions Mr. Murray made are absolutely worth your considering. A lot more attention to focusing people out of the shopping center down to the light at Seminole or wherever the light is, and then sending them over to Appalachia Parkway, or else routing them back onto Appalachia Parkway by creating that throughway traffic that will send them back down that service road and out onto Appalachia Parkway that way, because if you are going north, it is very challenging to figure out how to do it. And I don't think that this is going to solve that. So I can't be supportive of that part of your plan, although the rest of it is fine. And the other corners on the east side of the road, the traffic is just not that seriously heavy going in and out. But when you get the shopping center, there are a lot of people trying to get in and out of there. And it's a problem on all three, well, at least 3 sides of the shopping center. So I think that going at this and just solving, I mean, we don't need a Band-Aid. We need a solution, and it'd be nice to solve the entire situation at one time.
Thank you, Commissioner. From what I understand from the Executive Director, he said that this is a non-action item. I do think that the business owner has some concerns that are very valid, and I understand that Suzanne, that you guys would take into consideration us asking you to delay. There's a lot of conversations that still need to be had. It would be my preference that you delay as much as you can, at least till we get some of these things worked out, because I think there's a possible play there with the county. There's some questions there about the landscaping in front. So if it can be taken all into consideration, I'd love to have that taken into consideration. Commissioner Dozier is in queue to speak. I have no other commissioners in queue. This is just an action item. Commissioner Merritt after Commissioner Dozier. Any more commissioners that want to speak on this item? Did you want to speak? Okay. All right. So after Commissioner Merritt, then we'll move on to the next item. Commissioner Dozier.
Did you say not yet, Commissioner Barfield? Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, first I want to thank Mike and Ed and Benjamin for coming out. Mike and I and Ed have been in conversation about this issue for several months, and I think Mike's question about the agenda item and the public involvement, yes, there was a meeting. I'm glad you had good attendance, but today's item, the update, was based on a request here. So I think having another opportunity for us to kind of workshop these issues, because we hear as well from the constituents, might be good in the future with something of impact like this. So I toss that out, Suzanne, Greg, that kind of getting ahead of it and giving us at least an update before we get to the final proposal might be helpful. And I also want to recognize that the businesses there dealt with a lot of impacts during the construction on Lafayette Street. It was city utilities, county road work, and so they're just coming off of that, and I know that there is some sensitivity to additional impacts. So I really, just appreciate their engagement here. Greg, the first question I had for you was just to frame this. I think you and I talked about this in briefing a little bit. There's been questions that have been raised about whether or not this was, and Suzanne, this may be for you as well, exclusively for pedestrian safety, but it sounds like, I believe we initiated a request, CRTPA board, to look at a crosswalk on the east side of Appalachia Parkway between the hotel and CVS, because there is not a crosswalk there. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and then DOT expanded upon that request the study area and looked at the whole intersection. But it sounds like from the presentation, Suzanne, that it is as much about traffic safety as it is about pedestrian safety. There may not be enough time to cross, but it's those right turns and other things that you all were looking at.
Correct. We were trying to reduce the number of conflict points. We will work on signal timing to allow in that one cross motion now to ensure you allow pedestrians enough time to cross. And then, yes, in coordination with the county on some upcoming projects they have, we will be considering those improvements as well. So we looked at all of it, traffic and multimodal, or vehicular and multimodal.
But this was independent from the Magnolia sidewalks that the county and Blueprint are working on right now. There may be a connection there, but this was a separate study.
Correct. We basically, when we were asked to look at that one piece, we took a look at the entire intersection and determined that the reconfiguration was, in a more traditional way, was the safer way to go. So.
Well, thank you. For my part here, I've struggled with this a little bit because I do frequent that shopping center, and I understand the perspective from Cabo's and New Leaf and other businesses there that it is challenging to get out of that shopping center. I mean, you're pretty much in a right turn circle in a lot of ways. I am heartened, Ed, by the owner's commitment to do some improvements, and I would guess that if the trees and the landscaping, you kind of implied that he wants to see some changes there. If the new turn lane didn't go in and the service road stayed open, the owner probably isn't going to do those improvements in the parking lot because the visibility would remain as it is now. Would that be fair?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So
it'd be fair too if
sorry, Mr. Chair.
The landscape's not changed substantially out front, he still won't do it.
He still won't do it, okay.
It's got to be a trade-off.
Okay. Thank you. Well, Commissioner Miller, I appreciate your comments too, that, you know, the other three intersections, they don't have any, I haven't heard any concerns whatsoever. This service road, I mean, I don't know if enforcement would necessarily work because it's been there for so long and people still miss it. I don't know if signage would even work necessarily because it starts so far in advance due to that slope. So I am struggling with this, and my friend Mike sitting behind me will not be thrilled about this, but I do think with the improvements with that the owner is suggesting and working with the owner and on those the landscaping, the tree issues, and the trees would have to come out for that turn lane anyhow.
They do.
At that point. That I'm hopeful, I mean, it's interesting to me, this is one of the two oldest shopping centers. I didn't know that in the community. And that could be a really big improvement there. So with those comments, I would echo what you were saying, Mr. Chair, that I know that when you're looking to start a bid in September, you're finalizing the documents. Right. And I'm not sure if we need another update or not, or how to do that. But I really do think it's in our interest for DOT and the county. I know Tony Park is here with Public Works for the county to look at these different points. And the only last piece of that I would add is the exit on the west side of Blue Ribbon Cleaners. And I'm kind of looking at Tony here. That curb, that turn radius onto Lafayette, signage leading out of the parking lot so people know there's a light at Seminole. That could be an area that we look at as well, particularly if we're putting in signs for right turn only at Cabo's and the New Leaf exit. Okay. That I would like to add that exit point down by Blue Ribbon Cleaners to work with us on the county side to improve that and improve signage. And I think, Ed, the flow in the parking lot would probably work with what you all are thinking about as well. So again, I'm going to defer to Greg on kind of the process here, because I know it is unique working with DOT, but I do think it's in all of our collective interests as good partners, everybody working in good faith. I know you all spend a lot of time looking at alternatives as well, Suzanne, that we do take time in the next month to work with county and the owners to make sure we get this just right.
I think it might be simple in that, you know, we just ask county staff to get with DOT. I don't think the city's involved. I think it's just county and DOT.
Sorry, it would be city with the trees.
Oh, with
so
the
it's
trees,
city
that's
with
right.
the trees
That's right, that's
and
right.
the planting along Appalachia Parkway. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
Mr. Chair.
Yeah.
And then County Lafayette.
I forgot about the tree issue.
The owners.
And
Yeah.
DOT and the trees, because we really respect your trees, so.
Right.
I was about to say,
Yeah.
I believe all of those trees
guess
are in
we all
DOT
do,
right
yeah.
away.
Yeah, the city's,
So the only question I had there is if the trees are in FDOT right away, I guess it'd be a city's ordinance on trees would be affected. So it sounded like just be getting those groups together to have this conversation. But the thing is, we wouldn't have another meeting until.
We'll have one next month, and then our next meeting after June is September.
I mean, could this meeting happen within the next month before our next meeting, so we can get an update from FDOT what the status is? I feel like this is an easy conversation, something that can be worked out very simply, and it should be able to be worked out within the month. I would think so.
I'd first like to say we can do the meeting. I don't want to commit to having vetted all the solutions and having all the information available for you at that meeting, but we will gladly provide you that update at that and work with Greg. He's been very involved with this process and coordinated with us throughout, so we will continue that.
And I'll be honest, I do not know the city's process when it comes to tree removals and things like that, but I think we could at least come back with a decent.
Well, I know one thing is for sure, whether or not I'm coming right back to you, Commissioner Dozier. I know whether or not the tree issue happens or not, and the refiguring of the parking lot happens, that the fact still remains you still got that problem on Magnolia with that left-hand turn that they were speaking about, and I would like for the counties to go ahead and address that, no matter what happens, no matter if they reconfigure the parking lot or not. So. At least from our county perspective, I would like for us to address that. Now, the tree issue, the city FDOT can work on that, but I feel like we could get at least the county issue worked out within the next month and have a report back to this board on where we are with that. I have Commissioner Merritt.
I know I'm just from Waco, but I have a suggestion on your,
Everybody look at their map.
I guess it's eastbound on Parkway, right? Heading out towards where the dump used to be. Take that right-hand turn lane and integrate it into the existing service road, right? Make the service road yield to the right turn. So that way, they're not going to be directed into the parking lot. They would have to yield to the people that are turning right. Now, you'd still need the pedestrian sheltering island, whatever you called it. So that wouldn't go away. But then you would have a dedicated right turn lane on the Parkway onto heading south. Right?
Magnolia.
On Magnolia.
Right.
That eliminates directing traffic into the parking lot, and just put a yield sign there where, you know, they could, if they want to get out back on a Magnolia just like they do today, they can still do it.
We'll take those comments back to the design engineer. I think we're trying to reduce conflict points here,
I
so.
understand, but
Thank you.
But we
like I
got
said, you would
a
still,
lot of
you would create the right turn lane that you're going to create anyway, but it's basically the only change would be is not directing traffic to the parking lot, but
Not
you would,
closing
and
it.
you would still have the issue with the pedestrian crossing there needing that, but I don't know how big an issue that is, to be honest with you. I don't have the numbers.
make it work.
It may be worth the trade-off.
Be an issue soon, because you have a trail coming there.
They should be able to.
What'd you say, Suzanne?
We have a trail coming there. It would be an issue with us, wouldn't it?
Oh, yeah.
The future, we're kind of considering too, the fact that you have a future project
Right.
that will come to this intersection, and therefore this will benefit what you're doing as well by reducing the number of conflict points for the users of that trail.
Sidewalk.
So,
Yeah.
It's on that side of the road.
You got something, Commissioner Dozier?
It's going to be on the east side.
Yeah. The county has a trail that's going to be on the east side.
For the audience, what you're talking about on the
I'm sorry, yeah.
So there's a Magnolia trail. You want to clarify, Commissioner Dozier?
Mr. Chair, I believe, and I think Autumn Calder could probably nod at me, that the sidewalk in Magnolia shifts to the west side
Right.
at some point.
Oh, does
and
it?
so it would be coming up the west side, the Parkway
Well,
side.
then it would impact.
So there's already an existing sidewalk on the east side, but there was no crosswalk
Right.
across. That's why this board initiated a request to add the crosswalk on the east side of the intersection.
Yes.
the blueprint sidewalk, county sidewalk that would be coming up Magnolia would come up to this point. And so I appreciate Suzanne's comments. I guess from a planning side, there wasn't a question that I had heard at Blueprint or others about needing to close off the service road for that sidewalk.
Right.
But yes, it would be an added improvement there. But to Commissioner Merritt's point, I think 2 right turns, that's really where they're seeing, that's why I asked the question about more traffic conflicts than pedestrian conflicts, because there's 2 right turns there. Again, there are, this is all difficult issues because it's a legacy, or an older
Probably need to include.
shopping center here. But I think it seems like we're in the right place, Mr. Chair. And just when you were talking about the timeline and maybe coming back with an update next month, I saw Ed Murray and Tony Park both nod. So I think the county and the owners in Talcor could probably meet with DOT in the next month and then at least get a project update at that time in case there are any additional questions based on the status you have.
It looks like we're moving closer to home. Yes, sir.
Could we also include in that update the Magnolia, because that's going to be a tremendous impact. I mean, I didn't even think about that.
We'll include
it.
It
Is coming right up to this.
West side.
Yeah, staff said they'll include the trail in the update we have coming up in a moment.
Okay.
Yeah. Under normal circumstances, no, we don't do this, but this is a very, very important issue for the business owners there. Mr. Fiora would love to speak again. He's been waving me down for the last 15 minutes. If there's no objection of the board, I'm going to allow him, a minute or two. Come on up, Mike. I'll give you 2 minutes.
Let's see, there's going to be.
I just want to add that, expand on the yield sign on the service road. There's already a light up there protecting people coming off that service road, and it wouldn't be really hard to fix that whole problem with, and it would protect the pedestrians too. If we just the lights are already synchronized. I mean it's already working the way it is. I mean it's like it goes like this. I mean that's how I go home. That light's red, so that holds up everybody on the service road. The people turning south onto South Magnolia off the eastbound this is like Abbott and Costello. The eastbound Appalachia Parkway, they flow through and they go into the center, okay? And then after that, the southbound on Magnolia, they get a green light and they go. And then after that happens, the service road gets a green light, and it's a sequential deal. And you could actually on that turn lane, if you go through the turn lane, why not just put a light there and add it to the sequence and just sequence it out? And in that way, all the traffic kind of, instead of bunching up, which it does, instead of bunching up, having three roads dumping into everybody trying to get into one, we could just sequence it out, and the light protects the pedestrians. I mean, the stop sign protected the pedestrians on that service road since 1960, and I just don't get why they need I don't know why. If you can't look down 100 yards and see a car coming, it might be best you're taking it out of the gene pool. But I'm just saying it's just, anyway, that's it. So there already is that on that yield deal, there's a light there already that you just have to wait on. So sorry.
Thank you, sir. Any more comments on this item? If not, we'll move on to the next. I think DOT's got direction. The county and the city have direction. We'll look for an update coming back from the executive director and the board and staff in a month, which also includes our Magnolia Trail, so we can get a good solid vision of that too as well.
We'll
All right,
include Blueprint with that meeting.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so that we start that coordination as part of it as early on as well.
Yes, and Blueprint, all of Blueprint as well. Great. That's putting all the cogs of the wheel together. That's pretty awesome. All right, we'll move on now to item 6B. Mr. Executive Director.
Mr. Chairman, up next is approval of our fiscal year 19 and 20 Unified Planning Work Program, or UPWP. This is, in essence, it serves as the staff's work outline and budget for the next 2 years. You reviewed a draft of this at your March meeting. It was submitted to DOT and Federal Highway for review. They've provided us comments, and we have responded to those comments.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion to approve the UPWP has been made by Commissioner Merritt, seconded by Commissioner Richardson. I see no cards up for discussion, so we move right to a vote. All those in favor of the motion on the floor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries without objection. We'll move on now to 6C. Mr. Executive Director.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Burke will provide an overview of our draft project priority list for this upcoming year.
Good afternoon, members. As many of you recall, every year our agency adopts project priority lists to provide guidance to the FDOT as they proceed with the development of the annual state work program. At our next meeting, June 18th, we are scheduled to adopt the remaining project priority lists. So prior to that meeting occurring, we thought we would come to you and actually talk about the lists that are proposed for adoption in June and give you some proposals that we have with regards to those lists, proposals with regards to actually some of the changes from what we adopted last year. Starting with the first list is the roadways project priority list. Now, this list actually is a list that perhaps has the most changes that we proposed. First off, we're proposing to add a new project on there, specifically Crawfordville Road within Leon County from the Wakulla County line going north to the beginning of the 4-lane at Wakulla Springs Road.
Perfect.
So, as many of you are familiar with, south of Leon County, in Wakulla County, efforts are underway to 4-lane this facility, and some of those remaining phases in Wakulla County are actually on this list. Next, Midtown, the Midtown operational improvements in the area of Thomasville Road. We're proposing to actually move that project up from number 10 to number 6 this year, and that's a reflection of the activities that are going on with regards to the Midtown study that was presented to you all in March. Further down, Mahan Drive and Capitol Circle intersection, we're proposing to move that project up to number 7. And then next, there are 2 roundabout projects on that list that have been on there since the adoption of our most recent long-range transportation plan. We feel that those projects are actually more accurately reflected on the Transportation Systems Management, or TSM, project priority list. So we're proposing to take those projects off this list, put them on that list. And then finally, sure.
And you knew I was going to ask the question, so how does that affect the timing of that roundabout? And also, Ms. Lex came to beautiful Jefferson County, and I had an opportunity to show her the area where the roundabout is, and you know, certainly would love to have that roundabout. So looking at the time area, the time zone of, is that pushing it further back or bringing it closer to?
Yeah, that's actually a great question. As you know, these lists reflect projects that currently have no funding programmed on them. But we feel that by putting this list, those 2 projects, on the TSM list, it more accurately reflects the funding that could be available for them through the traffic operations portion department within FDOT. But currently, these projects have no funding on them.
So are you saying that the funding might come a little bit easier, quicker if we moved it to the other list?
I think what I'm saying is we are more accurately shining a spotlight on these 2 projects to the DOT.
And Commissioner, if I could, I would say perhaps. How about that?
It's weak.
It is weak, but it's on a much shorter list than it is right now. So
okay. All right.
I think that gives us, I would say, probably more opportunities.
Yeah, you were there too.
I was.
And finally, with regards to this list, there's one project that we're proposing to remove, and that is actually Wakulla Environmental Institute roadway. This type of projects we feel is more of a local project because it's kind of a small project versus a regional project, so we're just proposing to take it off this list.
Fine with me.
Yes, finally.
Yeah. No, not finally. It's fine with me.
Okay, moving on to the next list is the Transportation Systems Management List, or TSM PPL, project priority list. Projects on this list are typically intersection projects that can be constructed within 2 years. This list remains the same as last year's list, and that's a result of none of the projects on that list last year being funded. However, we're proposing to add the 2 roundabout projects that we just discussed onto this list. So this list, again, remains the same. We're proposing with just adding those 2 new projects.
I like.
Okay. Good deal. Moving on to the Regional Trails Project Priority List. Now, projects on this list are those specific segments associated with the Capital City to the Seas Trails Project, the Capital Cascades Trail Project, and the Nature Coast Project. This list remains the same as last year's list, with one update to reflect, which is positive news, as you all recall, the addition of $9 million in funding for one portion of the Capital City to the Seas segment on there. And then finally, last but not least, with regards to this presentation, the Bike and Pedestrian Project Priority List. This list also remains the same as last year's list. A couple minor changes. We removed Glenview Drive from there because it's fully funded and within the first 3 years of the State Work Program, or TIP. And then additionally, we're removing the Magnolia Drive Sidewalk Project because that project appears to be fully funded from Blueprint. Finally, with regards to the next steps, we are holding public meetings in the 4 counties of the CRTPA region next week, May 23rd, May 24th, various times of the day in each of the 4 counties. An email going out regarding those meetings is going to be sent out today. Later this week, in each of the 4 regional newspapers, there's going to be a large display ad placed. Subsequently, as I mentioned, these project priority lists are coming back to you at the June board meeting. We will then meet with the DOT, transmit them to that agency, and then they will begin development of the next annual state work program. And any projects that are actually funded will be reflected in our agency's transportation improvement program. That said, if you have any questions or comments.
Commissioner Dozier?
Did you have one? Not yet. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Greg, did you just say that the public meetings in the 4 counties are next week, and so notice for those meetings is going out this week?
Actually, notice has been placed for the last couple weeks or so on our webpage, but we're doing enhanced noticing by placing those ads a week before in the newspaper. Correct.
Okay. Gary just reminded me that the meeting on the Parkway Center was one that we shared on our Facebook page, and it actually got a good amount of traction. I think we talked about that, Suzanne, back at the retreat in October. So I just would like to say in general, a lot more people are interested in transportation public meetings than we would think. So if we could share those things on Facebook or other things in advance, I think some of us could assist in getting the word out. And I would love, I think, and I was going to make a comment also on the previous item we've already approved. You all are doing a great job of getting creative with the public outreach. Greg, you and I talked about the Midtown approach, and that's coming, I know, and you're thinking about doing some alternative ways of doing some outreach in Midtown. So I think this is great, but kind of advertising that a little bit ahead of time, I think we could assist you in that, and that would be beneficial to all of us. So, but otherwise, thank you very much. And
I was going to say, we do have a Facebook page, but we don't have a whole lot of likes yet. So if you're sitting around on Facebook, go out and like our page. Get our numbers up a little bit.
Well, if we share it on our Facebook pages, maybe we can drive some traffic back to you as well. But these are obviously issues that people want to get ahead of. The last thing I was just going to mention, that some of these movements, Greg, just remind me, or either, was so that we could leverage more dollars. It wasn't just prioritizing, but we were also looking at ways to continue leveraging those dollars with our partners. Is that right?
Correct. Exactly.
Yes, ma'am. When you look at, a lot of the projects like Bannerman, Tharp, and projects like that really are only eligible for federal funds. And since we see a fairly steady decline in the amount of federal funds available to us, we felt that it was better to go ahead and just move up the state eligible projects, which are pretty much all the state roads, move those further up the list, and hopefully get a little bit more funding to those earlier than we may have in the past.
Thank you very much. And Mr. Chair, I just wanted to take this opportunity. This board has worked really hard in recent years, and our staff has worked extra hard to improve communication and our relationship with FDOT and Blueprint and all of our partners. This is the first time we've seen the reports for the full cycle in a different format, and I just really wanted to appreciate all of you for stepping it up and can really see a difference in how you're approaching it, and hopefully it's going to get us a lot of good return on that investment of time and energy in the future. So thank you.
I'm putting all the pressure on Suzanne to make it pay off. So.
Any more comments on 6C? It's a non-action item. Seeing none, we'll move on to 6D.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, this is a presentation on the Thomasville Road from Hermitage Boulevard to Live Oak Plantation roadway safety audit. Before we get started, I want to go back and touch on something Commissioner Dozier mentioned earlier. And I want to thank Mike Lewis from the Safety Office. Really, projects like we talked about earlier with Apalachicola, this is where a lot of those projects begin. And Mike's been exceptionally good at bringing all these before you early in the process so you're aware of them and keeping us informed and in the process as it moves through. So this is kind of that first stage where you're first introduced to some of these concepts and projects before they make it to the point that they did earlier today with the Apalachicola and Magnolia. So Mike, I just want to tell you how much I do appreciate your willingness to come in and present these projects like you do.
Thank you, Greg. Thank you very much. This project started because the city planner received a letter from some of the neighborhood associations along Thomasville Road in the vicinity of the School on Arts and Sciences with concern about the amount of traffic that was in and out of that site during the student arrival and departure times during the day. And there were also some other issues on Thomasville Road that we kind of lumped into it. But we did a roadway safety audit between about Hermitage Avenue up to Live Oak Plantation, just south of the interstate. And when we and what we did was in the safety office, I have a number of district-wide contracts where I can write task work orders. Susan Joel, who you've seen before, works for a company called Cardno, and she was the project manager of this roadway safety audit. But we did meet with city, county, and CRTPA staff in the scoping process to make sure that we got all the important items in there. We did include public meetings. We did meet with some of the neighborhood associations, and I know a couple of the residents are here today in the meeting. And we did a follow-up with them also to show them what the results were a few weeks ago in advance of coming to you today. We did hold our initial field meeting back in January on the coldest day of the winter, and it was a field meeting, and we were all bundled up, but I thought it was a very successful effort. We got a lot of good input from the citizens. Susan's going to go through this kind of quickly. A lot of these are easy, and we can handle a lot of these signing and striping issues through maintenance. Some of these require some judgment of whether or not we want to do anything, and some others, really, we think there are some good ideas, but they're going to require further discussion, and we're prepared to do that. So Susan's going to walk you through the study area, and then at the end, we can have some discussion.
Thank you, sir. Susan?
Good afternoon. Okay, Mike went over the study area. This is just a map of it. We don't need to get into too much detail. A road safety audit, for those who aren't aware or have not been part of one, is basically a formal safety performance examination of an existing or future road or intersection by an independent audit team. To summarize all that, basically, oftentimes when a study is commenced, Mike will just call on his consultant or maybe in-house traffic engineers to do the study. This way we get a lot of other eyes and ears out there. We had the police, we had fire, we had city, county, and of course the citizens, which was great for this. This is the process. I'm not getting into detail, but we are towards the end of the process where we've done, got the findings, and we're coming forth to present them to you. Okay, so we're going to start at the south end of the project. Here at Hermitage, basically when we're out in the field, some of the citizens mentioned that some of the folks turning left may have had a little bit of confusion, could turn into oncoming traffic. Here, there's a median, so that's an easy fix if we just add some striping. Next here, looking coming out of Hermitage, there was a little issue with, we were talking a lot about trees and shrubs and landscaping, so this was a similar issue of potential site distance restrictions if you look at this red circle of seeing some pedestrians crossing here. So that would be an easy fix of some trimming of those bushes there.
Trees. Mm-hmm. City trees.
Okay, here this is also at Hermitage. As you're approaching from both the north and the south, those circles are actually circling around the traffic signals, which of course, as you can see, they're difficult to see. So if you're heading south, there's actually a curve near where the school is, and that curve does affect your sight distance, especially if there's cars backed up to the north from that signal. So we did come up with a possible solution, which would basically be to put in some detectors in the road and some flashing signs that would be prepared to stop. And I have that on the next slide. So if you're coming around that curve and all of a sudden the cars are all backed up, you'll be warned ahead of time that you're ready to hit them. So a little preparation. If you're looking north, you can see the trees overhang here. That basically, there's not many fixes to help there of seeing those signals, except would be to trim those trees, and we could put an additional signal ahead sign there.
So I don't see that as...
Okay, this is just the design of what we put in the report, showing where the detectors would potentially be upstream from the signal, and then the signs. Okay, here at Myrtle Drive, there was another issue of concern with seeing some of the overhangs of the landscaping. That would just be a trimming there. Here at the Leawood Drive intersection, there were some concerns from residents of making a left out from Leawood, and conflicts with the U-turns, which many are from the school traffic. So instead of completely cutting that off, we talked about potential of the residents being able to make a right turn and then a U-turn to the south at Hermitage, which right now there's a no U-turn sign. So we did talk to the city about the potential of removing that U-turn sign and being able to make that movement, because some of the residents have a difficulty making a left out, so some of them, that would give them another option if they feel there's too much conflicts there at that median opening. So the city is willing to look at the data if we could possibly have both the U-turn sign, no U-turn sign removed there. Okay, here at Brockton Way, which some of the residents are here that live down Brockton Way. There's, as you can see, there's some site restrictions. Once again, this is related to the fence here, and the concerns are with pedestrians crossing here, and there actually was one pedestrian crash here. So some of the things we could look at would be there is a little bit more DOT right-of-way here. We could be possibly shifting this back a little ways, which would improve the sight distance for the right turns coming out. And we could also look to the park to trim some of the trees that are along this area here. This is there's two driveways right here. There's the Thomasville Road Baptist Church driveway, and then just directly to the north of it is the Brockton Way driveway. And there's been some issues with, since they're so close together, of both the rights coming out. There's confusion, especially when the church traffic's coming out, and there's also some confusion with conflicts in the median opening of somebody making a left or U-turn south. Are they going to go into the church? Are they going to make a U-turn? So there's been a little bit of confusion there, and so we came up with the suggestion of making putting a no left turn sign, or right turn only, basically, at the Brockton Way private driveway, and which many of them said they already do because it's difficult to make the left turn out. So this would just basically be a sign improvement.
So Susan, where would they, if they wanted to go the opposite direction,
they'd make a U-turn directly to the north. I think it's the old Piedmont Church. Okay. The old Piedmont, yes, which many of them are doing already. Okay, next we have at the School of Arts and Sciences, you can see circled, there's concerns with, it's supposed to be a right turn only out of there. Some of the drivers are making a left out. We did see that, and that is seen, I guess, on a regular basis here and there. So we would like to do a geometric modification of this island here to sort of force them more so to have to make that right and not to be able to make the left turn so readily, okay? In the meantime, we could use some enforcement. Okay, also at the School of Arts was the concern that Mike brought up with the traffic, the right turns during the school entering exit times of backing up onto Thomasville Road to the north. We had a very good discussion with the church and the school about making the pickup point actually at the church property. So there would be a shuttle bus that would have the kids picked up over there, so there wouldn't have to be as many parents coming on site. And so that was a very great discussion. It was so nice to see everybody wanting to work together there and help each other out. Long term, there was the request that when there's future major developments, this was actually an expansion on the site to require a right turn lane, so there wouldn't be as many issues.
Mr. Chairman? Coming out of the school, why is there no left turn allowed? Just curious. Why is it right out only?
Safety. The volume of lefts compared to that through traffic on Thomasville Road.
Yeah.
Okay, here there was concerns about the speeds along there. There are some warning signs to go 35 miles per hour because the roadway is posted for 45. We just wanted to make clarification that these are only enforceable when if the driver is pulled over for another infraction, because there was concern of wanting to, maybe ticket more people that could be going over 35, but you need to be able to find them doing something else because they are considered a warning, not a regulatory. But we just want to include that.
Mr. Chair, so let me ask you a quick question.
Yes.
Yes.
So that's intriguing to me, that a sign that says reduce speed to 35 for a school entrance isn't enforceable, but then when you have flashing lights and a school zone with 20 mile per hour, that is enforceable. Is that right?
It's the color of the sign.
It's the color of the sign.
Right.
And whether or not it's a designated school zone
Exactly.
versus an entrance.
Right. This is not a designated school zone, and it really wouldn't fit into the category for one, since there are not students crossing the street there.
Okay.
You can't put that on.
That's what the difference is. It's
Yes.
whether or not students would cross the street.
That's a big factor in it, yes.
We had an issue with a private school wanting a flashing light saying, just like the public schools, and you can't do it. Best we could do was a yellow sign.
Yes, the yellow is the warning sign. Okay, here at the park entrance, this is just a minor. We recommended to add a one-way sign here. Here at the fire station, we noticed during the peak hour in the PM, traffic backs up through the emergency flashing signal there, so we could just add a do not block intersection sign. That is a regulatory sign, so they can be ticketed for that, and we would hope they would pay attention to it.
Susan?
Yes.
Could you also add a white bar right there, because
Yes, there already is, because when the firehouse signal is activated, the Thomasville Road does have to stop.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, you're welcome.
Yeah.
Okay, here also, this was brought up by some of the residents, that there was concerns that the stop bar was placed too far back coming out of Oven Park Drive, but actually we were able to explain that the stop bars are set back behind the crosswalk, so motorists do not come right up all the way to the intersection and hit the pedestrian. So this one really did not need any changes, but we wanted to keep everything in that was brought up during this audit.
Cross, it's right here.
Okay, here at Piedmont Drive, there's just some missing pavement markings on the side street which need to be added, a stop bar and some double yellow lines.
Someone from this area is Tallahassee, right?
Okay, here you can see the big red circle, oblong circle there. Basically, this is considered a acceleration lane for the people that are turning off of Piedmont Drive, and we just noticed that it is not designed appropriately. It's too narrow and it's not long enough, so it actually creates more of a safety issue. So we would just like to stripe that out and make it similar to the one on the west side of the road here. Here, this was just a minor comment that they'd like to see some of those skip lines again to help guide the traffic into the correct entrance and not into oncoming traffic. Here at Piedmont Way, this was a little unusual. We saw this island was actually is not designed properly. It's sort of like an isosceles triangle, and it really needs to be more of a right triangle, so these left turn vehicles can easily get in there. That's just a minor fix, because we don't want to restrict that left turn into there. Okay, here at Thomas Wood Drive, as you can see, the crosswalk has just a little kink in it, so we would want to straighten that out. That could either be cutting through the median or having to modify the location of the ramp. Here at Live Oak Plantation Road, there's some sight distance restrictions for the folks that are coming, making it eastbound out of Live Oak Plantation. The top photo shows you what they see when they're coming out. They basically, it's difficult to see past that railing, so we could put in a different type of railing that is shown below that sort of has like a 4-inch gap in it that helps the sight distance. Okay, when we did collect 5 years of crash data along the corridor, and the 2 locations that we saw most of the crashes were, one of them was Live Oak Plantation, the other was at Hermitage. Hermitage is signalized, so you do often expect a lot more rear-end crashes. But here at Live Oak, you can see there's quite a few angle crashes. Actually, there was 15 of them. And each one of those numbers represents one crash, and we had a table that corresponded to it. But this is a pretty serious issue when you have this many angle crashes at an intersection, because we know angle crashes do often result in injuries. So this intersection is located very close to the signalized intersection to the north. So we would want to do a further study of potentially eliminating the left turn out of this Live Oak, and they would make a right and then a U-turn, which, looking at the traffic data we collected, we not only collected crash data, we collected traffic counts. We saw that there was a much higher southbound right in the afternoon than there is an eastbound in the morning, eastbound left, because it's already a very difficult movement, unsafe movement to make. So we already saw many drivers are leery of doing this, and then it backs up the crash data, what we saw there. So of course that would need to have follow-up study of the impact of the U-turns at the next median openings, but this is something to be considered further. Okay, also, there was some concerns by the residents in the area that the signing with the there's a merge lane. The outside lane is a merge lane. We would just want to add an extra right lane end sign and shift some of the signs around to make it a little bit clearer. We also would like to look at here, as someone is coming out, whether they're making a right or a left, you see they have 1, 2, 3, 4 lanes to look past besides that railing that we showed you the picture of. We saw quite a few people driving in this outside merge lane and then making a right from that merge lane. So we would see a benefit in potentially eliminating this right turn lane and using the merge lane as a dual purpose of merge and right turn lane. Many are already doing it, and it would reduce the sight impacts that these people coming out are making, that have less lanes to have to look across and less potential conflict points. So once again, that would require further study to see the impacts and the analysis of removing that right turn lane. Okay, then finally, there was just some general comments about the sidewalks, particularly on the west side, that's asphalt, that has quite a bit of rutting, and a lot of that has to do with the trees that are preserved along there, and that does impact it. So that would have to be revisited during the next resurfacing project. And then there was concern with some of the dead trees, branches that could potentially fall into the roadway. And that would, in DOT right away, if any of them were hanging over, could be easily trimmed. And then we have comments or questions.
Any questions, comments? Commissioner Daly?
Yeah, Susan, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Have we scheduled the day for when the next public meeting will be on the Live Oak Plantation Road, Thomasville Road study?
We have not, but as far as the RSA, this is going to complete at least our public meetings, and Susan's going to be finishing the report, and we're going to wrap up that phase of it. We had been here a few months ago, and we had talked about doing a corridor management plan of the multi-lane section down around Whole Foods, talking about some of the access issues we saw down there. And you know, this is fairly proximate to that area. We could always attach this intersection to that process. It's the same requirement of public meeting and public discussion, and so that potentially could be something we do if you'd allow us to. So,
Well, it was, and Susan did a great job, thank you. But it was mentioned further study.
Further study, yes.
Further study. And so in accordance with further study, I was wondering if we'll be taking additional public comment.
yes, the next step is anytime you do an access management change like this, you have to have a public meeting.
Right.
And so this corridor management plan would include that. And that's why I say, given the proximity, we could do them simultaneously and then do it all in that process. So that could be underway within less than a year if all works out well.
Okay. And the other thing that I would take into consideration is when we consider removing the left-hand turn off of Live Oak, which my gut reaction is I'm not in favor of. I would also take into consideration the fact that now we have Live Oak Plantation Road and Meridian Road signalized. So we are encouraging people to use Live Oak Plantation Road off of Meridian. Are we going to be creating more traffic headaches on the other end? And keep in mind, we also during, like for instance, Red Hills, we are putting up signs and driving traffic down Live Oak Plantation Road to special events. I just want to make sure that it's a coordinated effort with all the governing bodies, that we're all on the same page. Because if we're pushing traffic onto Live Oak, but taking away left-hand turn lanes, it could really create.
And one of the things that would be looked at is kind of the cause and effect of if you shut this off, where's traffic going to go? So that's the traffic models will help us do that.
That's great.
And we will take a look at that.
But y'all put a lot of time and energy into it, and I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Daly. Commissioner Dozier.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you both. Great presentation. And I think I only saw one mention of one tree removal throughout the whole thing. So with that being such a hot topic for us, I really appreciated the sensitivity to that and the tree trimming. Commissioner Daly, I think I had talked to a signal at Live Oak or something else going, with your concerns there. There might be some proximity issues to some of the other lights, but I'm glad you asked the questions about further analysis there. And I know county and other city will, participate in those conversations, I'm sure. So I look forward to that. The only other thing I was going to mention, I'm really glad you dropped the comment about the sidewalks. These are old 4-foot sidewalks that have been reduced in some places probably to 2 feet or less with some of the overgrowth and everything like that. Not to call you out, Chris, but Chris was just saying that sees a lot of people walking on that sidewalk, even around School of Arts and Science and others. So, Greg, I think you had suggested when we talked about this in briefing, and it's in the item as well, that contemplate that with the next resurfacing of Thomasville Road. So how do we make that more of a formal request? And maybe I'll look to you, Suzanne, versus Michael, but could FDOT or who does the assessment to see if it is a need and what we need to do in advance of that resurfacing?
The department normally does that. They'll go through and look at all the ADA issues, and I believe the sidewalk would fall under that, but they've gotten extremely good about letting us know when they start scoping these projects, so we're involved in those conversations as well up front.
Okay, so that would be an automatic assessment when you look to the resurfacing project?
When we get to 30% plans, we sit down with all the stakeholders and all the issues that they identified, improvements they'd like to see, concerns. We take all that information into consideration. So yes, the sidewalks would be part of that.
Okay, so you have enough direction based on the study that's been done and anything from CRTPA? Yeah. Okay, good. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Any more commissioner comment on item 6D? Member comment? I feel compelled as at-large commissioner to advocate for not taking away that left-hand turn on Live Oak Plantation. I think Commissioner Daly makes some excellent points there. We do use that road a lot, especially with our signage for our horse trials and things of that nature. And that's a neighborhood that's very busy. And at least at that level worse, whenever you do start to have the conversation about what you're going to do there, make sure that there's adequate advertising of the public hearing, a public meeting, because I'm pretty sure there's a lot of people on that road that will come out to that meeting to voice their concern with that, with taking away that left-hand turn.
Certainly.
Any more comment? Seeing none? None? None?
Yeah, you had one. You had one.
Oh, yeah, I do have one speaker. I'm so sorry, ma'am.
And I want to speak on item 11.
Yes, ma'am. Patricia Martin, come on up. Name and address for the record, please, ma'am. You have a beautiful name. It's my mother's name.
Thank you. My name is Pat Martin, and I live in Rose Hollow, 3119 Brockton Way. So I'm one of the group that's concerned here. In January, when the DOT people came to us, we had two neighborhoods, Rose Hollow and Leawood. We had the police, the fire, the school board, the church, the school, the park. It was a very interesting 4-hour meeting, and we all donned those little safety jackets and went out and walked up and down the street. So we were able to see what was happening. We did go as far as Live Oak Plantation, but I don't think anybody was there, John, from your neighborhood. Possibly they didn't know about it. But I just wanted to point out to you the changes that have taken place in this stretch of Thomasville Road in the last few years. What used to be a church is now a school, and the student population of that school continues to grow. And my little neighborhood fought the expansion. We didn't fight the school, but we did oppose the expansion. I think Commissioner Miller knows about that some years ago, but we lost. And it wasn't over not liking the school. It's over the fact that the traffic is really quite serious, traffic situation. So we're one of the groups, my little neighborhood, 61 homes right in behind Owen Park. You may not even know it's there. And we're trapped between the church and the park and the other developments up the hill. And we have one egress and one ingress, and that's off Thomasville Road there by the driveway to the church. So I just want you to be aware we're going to be forced to turn right. The school should turn right because that is a very tricky intersection where the church and the school, the park, around Elf Night, around the Christmas holidays, we just tell our people stay at home or stay away. You cannot get in and out of there, and if you do, you may run over a child because everybody's running back and forth. But I wanted to congratulate the various units involved here, and particularly DOT, for involving us back in January. And recently, they came back and reported back to us, and we were quite pleased with the attention they've paid to all of this. And so I don't think the Leawood folks are perhaps real happy about this. Are any of them here today? So they may want to speak. But and we're not thrilled with only right turn, but since you want to live, it's not the worst option. So I just want to thank all of y'all.
Thank you, ma'am. Any more comment? Yes, sir.
If I can comment on that right turn, and I think I said at the meeting when we met a few weeks ago, is that if you notice, we use the word suggestion, not recommendation.
Yes, sir.
So if I were going to start to make a change to solve a problem, that's where I would start, by restricting that right turn. But we don't have a crash history there. That's one thing that came out. While it may not be the safest condition, I think the residents understand what they're dealing with. Certain times of the day, they do make a right and then a U-turn. But for those times of the day where there isn't heavy traffic, they can make a left turn out. So I don't know that we would restrict it at this point, but it's something that we could do in the future.
Thank you, sir. Any more comments? Seeing none, that is the end of CRTPA action items. We'll move now to item number 7, FDOT report. Do you have anything for us, Suzanne?
I just want to mention that I distributed to everybody some information about the build grants. These are the former Tiger grants that are available from Federal Highway. There's a call for applications both from Federal Highway and then also the Department of Transportation. We are accepting worksheets to be submitted to us. It's not the application. And again, I apologize, it's a short deadline. It's by this Friday. We recognize we just want the best available information. And then we will be screening them and getting back with the projects that we select. So we are looking for 3 projects from the whole state. However, the local governments and TPOs, they may apply as well for these funds. So How to get more information, the website is here on the bottom of the front from the Federal Highway Transportation Gov build grants. There is 1.5 billion out there with between 5 million and 25 million, with the exception of 1 million for rural projects. So they recognize with the rural projects that you will be, because there's match involved and there's additional monies that you would need to put, so they have a lower cap on them. And then there's also 4 webinars that will give you some information, 3 webinars that will give you some additional information about how to apply for these grants. You can also go out there and you'll find that there's all the previous applications that were submitted and approved. So there's additional information and resources just to look through. So if you're interested, here's this. If you have additional questions, get with Greg or I.
Thank you, ma'am. Any questions? Item number 8, Executive Director Report.
Just real briefly, I want to bring you up to speed on some conversations I've been having regarding passenger rail. As part of your agenda item, I actually included a string of emails that I was talking to a gentleman over the last month or so. Apparently, there's been some money out there available.
Members.
10. What's that? I'm sorry, I was talking.
In terms of the potential to add passenger rail through the Panhandle, I reached out to my counterparts at both Jacksonville and Pensacola. At this point, nobody has identified passenger rail as a priority in any of their long-range plans. We had a brief discussion about this a few months ago, and I think what we talked about here was included as part of our regional mobility plan update, which starts later this year, the first of next year. So I at least want to make you aware of the conversations. I know some of you have been copied in on those and had some of the discussions. Commissioner Miller, I believe you had. So just wanted to give you just a quick update as to some of those conversations and give you some background on it.
Any questions? All right. We'll move now to CRTPA board member items. Commissioner Barfield.
Waiting all day?
Been waiting all day.
Yeah. Thank you very much. About a month ago, Greg and Suzanne came out to beautiful Jefferson County and had a great visit and showed them all the projects that I want this board to spend their money on, and they shot me down on about 90% of them. But I'm still working on them. And unfortunately, I didn't take you to one area that I really should have, and that's at the corner of Gamble Road, State Road 59, and US 27. We just had a fatal accident there where 2 people died. What's happening is they're going south on Gamble Road, and that's a 4-lane with the median, and they're turning down the wrong lane. They're not going over the median and then turning left or on the opposite direction. They're not getting into the right lane. So we either need some lighting or some better markings on the road. We have, if you're going from Gamble Road south going west on 27, we have a great acceleration lane there. That works great, but we continue to have issues at that intersection, and my Commissioner Walker said that he observes people all the time turning into the wrong lane. So if we could take a look at that and perhaps look at your crash data and lighting, signage would just work amazingly well right there.
Commissioner, you said that was Gamble Road in 19?
US 27.
27, right.
I think that's on your agenda for your CTST.
Yes. Yes. I don't think I'm going to be able to go to my CTST Thursday, so I'm going ahead and bringing it to the board. So take a look at that. Also, Commissioner Jean Hall asked that we take a look at the courthouse and put hawk lighting there. There's a lot of activity going all around the courthouse. Y'all missed it. Truck came by and just disseminated the concrete barrier right there in front of the court, the Opera House, coming around that same corner that we kept seeing them coming around and go around the big oak tree. So we fixed it already. So I solidify my ask to you about having the concrete as a, what did you call it, a ramp up?
Mountable curb, and talked to the city, and they actually the city clerk, and she just loved that idea. So we continue to have terrible problems, particularly on that southwest side of the courthouse right there.
But thank you very much for spending time, and I appreciate that. I appreciate the feasibility study coming up on the trail. We're looking forward to that, and I'm here to serve.
Thank you, ma'am. Anything else from members?
I just want to mention, we have a public information meeting in Wakulla County on May 31st. I have a flyer here for Commissioner Merritt and some extra copies if you want to take it back and leave it in your city hall. Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Thanks for offering those.
All right.
I'm sure you do that with everybody in the world anyways.
We do.
Anything else? Anything else? All right.
I'm sorry, wait a minute. Jack, did you want to do a
No,
quick
you should take
update
it
on the
back.
coastal trail? Sorry.
Sure.
Are you up for re-election?
Construction continues on the coastal trail from St. Mark's Trail to Wakulla High School. It's broken into 2 segments, but they're at approximately 96% completion right now. And we're going to be setting up a ribbon cutting sometime in June, mid-June, something like that. We know that there's the FAC meeting towards the end of June, so we're kind of avoiding that. And we're just working out schedules. So we'll have a ribbon cutting down in Wakulla County for that.
Wait till it gets really good and hot.
Let's have it at 7.
We can certainly do that, but that.
7 in the morning.
It could be really hot or 7 in the morning. Either way, you get the same result.
It usually rains in Wakulla about 10 o'clock in the morning, so we'll have it all done and wrapped up with really quickly.
Anything else?
Mr. Chair, real quick.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, 2 quick things. I think we just heard Commissioner Merritt offer to bring breakfast.
He did.
So,
He did.
Yeah,
He
early
did.
morning. Just wanted to make sure that was recorded for the record.
You're bringing breakfast.
Exactly.
Breakfast.
Sure, I'll bring breakfast.
There we go.
Fruit
Should have known that was coming. But no, Mr. Chair, I actually just wanted to say, not to push back too much, there's been a lot of people working on City of the Sea Trail, and we saw an article in the Democrat recently that was a good overview, but I think it did not indicate how hard our staff has worked. DOT, others, we've worked collaboratively to get this project done, and it's really exciting. So not that as many people who see the Democrat are going to see this comment, but I just wanted to recognize that at this meeting, that I think a lot of us do know that there was many people involved in that, and we're really excited about it. So thanks.
It looks really nice, and I'm glad we've got funded now to take it from the high school all the way down to Masha Sands.
Pretty much so.
And by the way, since we're under items, if you haven't seen Shell Point Beach, since it's been renourished, it's something to see.
It's something to see.
It's totally different.
We should take a field trip.
Is that BP money?
Find somewhere to park. Yes, it would be BP money.
Now we're done.
Board field trip.
We can do it.
Yeah. One thing before we adjourn, I think the board members here will say this. Suzanne, I wanted to just thank you because you have been very willing to work with us on issues that our citizens have brought forward and asked us to ask you to work with us. The way you handle them, your comments, your willingness to say, hey, listen, I'll go take that back is appreciated. I can maybe count back a few years ago, and we were a little bit at odds with FDOT. But you've turned that corner, and we appreciate that. I just want to make sure I said that on record.
Thank you very much. And I think DOT, again, recognizes the partnership with all of our agencies here and the CRTPA, too. It's a team effort. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. We're adjourned.
Thank you.